Hello, everyone. My name is Trish McCabe, and welcome to Conversations from the School of Hard Knocks. This is a podcast where people from all walks of life will be sharing their stories and the wisdom they have gained from their life experiences. In no way is this show offering any kind of advice or counsel. These conversations will be of a very sensitive nature, so please be respectful in your comments, and thank you for watching. Hello, everyone. My name is Trish. Welcome to Conversations from the School of Hard Knocks. Today, I have my guest joining me here again today is Opal. Hi, Opal.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited. This is just great. Also, I didn't tell you, but I'll just tell you this. We may have a guest joining us in the future podcasts for a group discussion. So I'm really excited about that. Welcome, Opal. Today we're going to talk about, we're doing a series on insecurities and where they come from. And you and I discuss breaking it down and doing there's layers to this topic and breaking it down. And so we can really dig in and talk about the deeper issues. Particularly our last place that the first thing that we talked about in the last podcast you and I did together was cliques.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's great because I don't know anyone that it doesn't affect. And just before we got on here, you and I talked about, a friend suggested this, the movie The Breakfast Club. And
which is one of my favorite movies.
Mine too. And everybody loves that movie. Isn't that really great? Because
everybody can relate.
Everybody can relate. Yeah, it really breaks down the archetypes of the school and of the cliques and the different groups of each. I think
absolutely.
What were they? There was Judd Nelson's character. He was
the outcast. I don't even remember what his exact label was. It's been a few years since I've watched it, but he was the outcast. And then we had Ali Sheedy. She was the freak.
Yes. The weirdo.
We had Anthony Michael Hall, which was the geek or the nerd, whichever one you want to call him.
Academic.
And then we had Molly Ringwald. She was the prom queen.
The popular girl,
the pretty girl, the popular
hung out
girl.
with all the cheerleaders and all that.
Yeah. And then we had Emilio Estevez, which was the jock. Yeah.
And wow, I mean, a friend of mine, we're talking about that movie, and what was so great about it, I got goosebumps just talking about it, is how at some point they all get in a circle and they tell those stories about why they're there. And wow, they're just moving, you really get an idea of what goes on, with these roles that we're supposed to play and the pain that it causes each of them, and the pigeonholing and the limitations that come along with those titles, those roles, group roles or whatever, for lack of a better word. And so which one did you most identify with?
The freak. Molly, not Molly Ringwald, but Ali Sheedy. I mean, I have psoriasis. So, anytime I had my hair pulled back, or if I had like a black shirt on or something like that, I had the hair Parmesan cheese going on. So I constantly got made fun of because of that. And it's not something that I can control, even now I still have it. It's still, it's still something that I battle with every day. It's not going anywhere.
It's a health condition, It
is.
So yeah, I'm with you on that. I also, Judd Nelson for me, like what he said about the way he grew up, his family, his dad, that was more
not my dad, but my stepfather. And really, a lot of it had to do with drinking, substance
Yeah.
abuse and drinking. Because when my parents didn't, they were so different, but drinking and drugs changes people, and
Oh yeah,
talked about
absolutely.
that. It changes people. So, but what's great is that in a way, I think you could identify with all of them. And
Yeah.
yeah, their perspective. And what's to me, the thing that is so, it, that people can identify with, I think, as a whole, is the insecurities that
Oh,
come out of
absolutely.
this segregating people into groups like that, pigeonholing people.
Absolutely. I mean, I just had a conversation with my 15-year-old last night. She's been
Oh,
at home this whole year. You know, she's put on some weight, but who hasn't? We've been stuck in the house for an entire year.
it's a lot.
And, you
Hmm.
know, it's she's stressing about going into her sophomore year because she's been at home for an entire year. She didn't have a freshman year, really.
Mm.
And, she's also hitting that age where, relationships are, starting to become a factor. And she's got stretch marks and she's got scars on her face from acne. And, she's beautiful, but she doesn't see it that way. She sees all these imperfections because of what people have told her is not
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
And she's worried that people are not going to love her for who she is. And it's like I told her, I said, baby, those stretch marks are your tiger stripes. Nobody has the same ones. Nobody is you. And that is the most beautiful thing that you can be, is 100% yourself.
Yes.
Because there's no you, there's no other you. So, I mean, the more things change, the more things stay the same, because I can remember being her age and thinking the exact same thing,
Oh,
being in
yeah.
the exact same position. And, here I am 15 years later, and, I'm finally just now starting to be comfortable with who I am, because there is nobody else like me.
1984. I graduated in 1984, and I'm just now getting to where I'm comfortable with myself. And even then, I still have my days of
Oh,
self-doubt,
absolutely.
self-scrutiny, and when you go through these things when you're young, and these things are told you about you, it's so hard to get out from underneath them. It's
Oh,
especially
absolutely.
since society's still perpetuating it. We still have it in our commercials, we still have it in TV shows, we still have it in movies, and um all over social media, of these norms, that we're told we need to fit into, and to find our place, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And yeah, I it's just great that he brought up that movie, because I think it's a great way to
It
really
is.
talk about clicks and
It
how
is.
damaging they are and how they're not true.
No, they're really not. I mean, at the end of the day, every single one of the teenagers could relate to each other. They
Yes.
could absolutely identify. You had Molly Ringwald's character, who everybody thought her home life was just so perfect, and her parents really don't care about her, to hear her talk. Her parents don't care about her. And the thing of it is we don't actually see the home life.
Yeah.
So all we can do is take their word for it, and
Emilio Estevez, when he's talking about his dad, and you must be a
yeah,
winner. And I
yeah.
have a friend who was a gymnast and had to deal with that. The dad was so overbearing, and you got to be the top, you got to be the top. And in gymnastics, I mean, that's a a lot of hours of your life. Sports for sure is a lot of hours.
They do stuff that Navy SEALs don't even do, man.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure she got it. And that really, it brings me back to the Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights. His dad's, have you ever seen it?
I don't think so. No, it doesn't. I'm not good with names.
It's okay. Shake and Bake, the race car where he's racing the cars and he gets into a wreck
I don't think
and he
so.
can't race anymore. I highly recommend it
Okay, cool.
because there was a miscommunication from his dad, because his dad was either drunk or high. I can't remember which one. And he said, if you're not first, you're last. Well, Ricky Bobby took it and ran with it.
Literally.
Literally.
Hmm.
And he realized through everything that he went through in the movie that it's not always all it's cracked up to be first.
Yeah.
And that plays a big deal in anybody's psyche. If they believe
sure.
that they have to be first, they perpetuate this idea of perfectionism. I mean, we all have perfectionism, but nobody's perfect.
And doesn't allow for humanness. It doesn't allow for reality.
Yeah, right.
I mean, don't we all wish things could be perfect? We could be perfect. The world could be perfect.
Yeah.
But to put that out there is an unrealistic expectation to put on children. And then, of course, they grow up with, I think that's why a lot of people have OCD. It's this false sense of control that's how you try to have some kind of control. You can't control it, so you focus on yourself. That's why I think a lot of women, a lot of girls, when they're young, are prone to eating disorders and things like that, because at least control something where they feel like, and then of course all the other stuff that gets put on children. But that's that's another conversation later. But it does, all these things are intertwined. We're just trying to keep it in one subject at a time so we can really understand the depth of how these ways of being have affected us, and the limitations that come with it. Because I think that's one of the most powerful things is in that movie, when they're all telling their story and they're all going, wow, like,
you're just like me.
I got goosebumps. I just the one he makes the lamp and he couldn't get the lamp to go on. And it was like, with his parents, you don't get a D or whatever, that you can't get a failing grade or even close. You have to have A's. And it's was put upon him by his parents that was expected of him. And to have that on him all the time, and then made to feel like he was a failure because he's an academic. Does that mean he's worthless because he can't work with his hands? Try to bring the mechanic in and see if he can do mathematics and equations and all those things.
I mean, there's a reason we have so many different careers, because not everybody is going to succeed at the exact same thing. It comes back to my 15-year-old. She was at home this past year, and the last half of it, she was struggling a little bit, and she's got to redo half a semester of geometry. And when she told me, it was like, dude, you did your best. Knock it out the half a semester. It is what it is. I've always told her that I'd rather have an honest failing grade than a lazy failing grade, because a lazy failing grade is completely different. It just means that you're not trying. But an honest failing grade means that you put your all into it and you just didn't get it.
That's me. I'm just talking about math as a whole. I have dyslexia. So Math was extremely difficult to the point where, I mean, I tried. I mean, my choral conductor, um, who I was in choir with, and all the concert choir and chamber choir and all that, he was also my math teacher, and we tried, and he just went to my oh, what do you call them? Counselor, and the school counselor, and they talked, and they gave me some credits just because it wasn't that I didn't try. I even went to summer school, and I took after school classes, and I gave it everything I had. I just wasn't, with this issue with numbers and everything, I just wasn't able to grasp that. And they were so kind to do that for me, because I was able to graduate, and I deserved it, because, like, it's what you said, it wasn't without effort. It just, what do you do? And it's not fair when you put like a bar like that on children, where one standard is, you're supposed to, that's not fair, and it's not realistic.
It's not realistic. No, it's not realistic, because some kids, they're able to make straight A's without even putting in any effort. And then you have other kids that can barely make C's and are trying their absolute hardest, just because they don't learn the way other kids learn.
And yes, and then what's so great about that movie is they talk about their home life.
Yes.
And the stress that they're having to deal with at home because of these norms we've been taught are supposed to be.
Absolutely.
You know, and so you go home and you get hit, and you go to school and get hit. It's extremely stressful for children.
Absolutely.
So, and then of course, when you get older, there's all kinds of other peer pressure related things.
Oh yeah.
You know, that play a big role in doing things you don't even want to do, just so you can belong, just so you can feel like you fit in and you're accepted. And so you're actually even having to go against yourself and things you're not even really comfortable doing, just so that you're accepted. And
absolutely. And that creates the mentality that you need to please other people before you listen to yourself.
Yes.
You know, I can remember many situations. I mean, I was one of those kids that I figured out my mom knew everything real early. I was in color guard, and it was my first pep rally. I was
That's
in
awesome.
color guard, and my first pep rally, I dropped my rifle more than I had it in my hand. My mom wasn't even at the pep rally. She couldn't get off. But when I got off of the bus, I heard you dropped your rifle quite a number of times. I was like, yeah. So I knew that my mom was going to figure everything out. So I was always one of those kids going, no, I'm going to stay over here. I can even remember there were quite a few times my brother got in trouble because he went along with it. I didn't. And then there were some situations where I did go along with some things just because I really wanted to fit in. You know, and I can.
The other part where, like Ali Sheedy's character, where the mother or the parents were absent, uninvolved. That was me. My parents didn't care if I did homework. They never asked me about my homework. They never even knew my grades. That just wasn't. They just didn't get involved. So we were just on our own. And so you got what's going on at school, and then you have all these other background issues with children, and things that are quote unquote expected of you.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's like, you don't have a voice. You don't really have a say, and you're just, this is what you have to do, and that's it. And before we wrap this up today, which is, a friend of mine that mentioned this movie, and I just think it's great. He talked about the letter that they wrote in the end, and I would like to read that at the end of this show, because I think it really ties in so much with what we're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the whole movie, John Hughes, I mean, if you really think about it, all the movies that
we were just talking,
back in the 80s,
amazing,
were complete and utter teenage angst. Pretty in Pink, which is an amazing movie. and it's one of my favorite movies. But I mean, every single one of his movies, Sweet 16, they all deal with some level of peer
Struggling.
pressure,
Yeah, peer pressure.
struggling,
Love that. Yes.
Stuff that you go through as a kid. And, let's take Sweet 16, for instance. Her parents were so wrapped up in her sister's wedding that they forgot her birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, that right there is enough to make anybody feel invisible. Because, I mean, it was her 16th birthday. That's kind of a big thing,
I think about her character in Breakfast Club, and she's crying, and she's like, "You don't understand all the pressure it is to be popular."
Absolutely.
And you can't make a mistake. Like the scene where she does the lipstick in her cleavage, and Judd Nelson, but he was right. He was like clapping his hands and making fun of her, like, really, but it was like she didn't get to be a kid.
No,
a kid, and
to be honest with you, I'm actually quite thankful that I wasn't popular in high school.
Yeah,
I really am, because I was already scrutinized enough.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, because I remember hearing stories through the grapevines of these parties that everybody was at, but it was only the cool people that was there, because I'm like, I wasn't there, so everybody wasn't there.
Oh God.
And they would all get like incriminating pictures.
Oh yeah.
Of each other.
Do really mean things too when they're like passed out or whatever.
This was before MySpace and Instagram, so it was like,
thank God.
Right?
Now it's a lot. You got a lot of that.
Oh, it's a whole lot worse. Bullying. There's a whole lot more cyberbullying and all that kind of stuff. I mean, bullying in general is not okay, but I mean, cyberbullying is that much worse, because it's like, for some reason, people are like, oh, they can't see who I am. I'm just going to be a complete and utter dick. There we go.
Yeah, those keyboard warriors,
Oh, yeah.
They'll chime in and say things they would never do if they were living in my time.
Absolutely. Or even if they were face to face, they wouldn't say that. I mean,
no, they wouldn't. Yeah. So the internet is been used as a tool for abuse, and so horribly, because you have so much access to so many people, so you can really do damage. But yeah,
you can. And I mean, it's bad enough that those pictures were taken, and it's even worse that they did manage to surface around the school. But I can't imagine in today's day and age, all these kids, all they have to do is post one incriminating picture on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and that other kid is liable to be hauled off to jail just for being a kid.
Yeah. And, with this whole, toxicity and politics in particular, and adults really just mean-spiritedness and the pigeonholing. Oh, you're this, you're
absolutely
that. And and this is the foundation that brings us to these behaviors, that create these behaviors that we take into our adult life. And
absolutely,
they still have cliques and jobs where you go, and
oh yes,
and that's still going on. There's cliques online. I won't mention any in particulars, but groups of people that gather together and don't let other people in their group. And I'm like, really? Aren't we a little old for this? Like, I'm a fan of this artist. When did it become a popularity club that? Absolutely. And that artist was so against that kind of behavior. So I just remove myself. It's like, look, I'm a fan of this person. It has nothing to do with anyone else. My personal preference to be a fan of this person. If you're saying that I have to fit into your fan club, huh?
Yeah.
But that's why we're talking about this, because this is where it all begins.
Still, even in adulthood, like you said, it is still very much prevalent.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. family reunions.
Oh
You
gosh.
get it in your own family.
Oh, for sure. Oh boy, isn't that true? Have some of that
And
going on right now in my own family dynamic, a little bit, where I've had to break off from a few of them because I'm not going to accept abuse. I don't care if it's
no,
family, I don't care if it's job, I don't care if it's a fan club. I'm not going to accept being treated poorly. Um, so, and this is why we're talking about this. Is why we're
that's it. That's why
right.
we're here. We want everybody to understand that they're worthy
Yes.
and that they're perfectly fine exactly the way that they are.
And really
Yes.
honestly, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And it's so for my viewers, if you have quote unquote an insecurity, a lot of times these insecurities come from school. Even if you had let's
Yeah,
say you had a good, upbringing, supportive parents and everything else, school can undo all of that. You have to go out into society and deal with these constructs, that don't allow you to be who you really are, to express yourself and just be yourself. Because if you do, you're going to get pigeonholed. You're going to get told, well, then you're one of these. And those limits that come from that. And back to the Breakfast Club, where when they're all talking, they realize how much more alike they were than they were different. Right? I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. And, unfortunately, that kind of pigeonholing, it stops the personal growth.
yes.
You know, um, let's
Can you
just look
give
at
me an example with you personally, how you
with
held
me
yourself back?
personally. Um, I was 17. I was pregnant.
Um,
I was told by a lot of people that I'd never go anywhere. I'd
hmm.
never amount to anything. Well, guess what? This is my second go around going to college. No, I didn't complete college the first time. That's for a whole different subject, but it wasn't without me, wanting to finish it. But it's probably a good thing that I didn't finish it
But being a
because
single
now,
mother and trying to
yeah,
go to school and go to a job, and people make these blanket statements, well, blah 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 blah. Well, and we've talked about this is, if a job doesn't pay enough and your area doesn't have a lot of jobs available, so you have to take two jobs,
yeah,
and try your best to make ends meet and still try to go to school and
absolutely.
have the brain juice to be able to do that. And I give mad kudos to you. I
I
couldn't
appreciate that.
really.
I
Mm-mm.
only have one job.
Now, the
Well,
great,
actually, I do have two jobs because I'm a mom. So
because
I
you're a mom.
technically have two
And
jobs,
that's
but one of them,
true.
only one of
Yeah.
them does the monetary paying. The other one has the big payoff, and that's getting to see her grow up, and that's getting to see her become the beautiful butterfly that I know she is.
Hmm.
That's the big payoff. And the only way that I'm going to be able to teach her to do that is by me sometimes doing what's best for me, because ultimately what is best for me is always best for her.
And unlearning these things yourself
Yes.
while you're trying to teach your child not to do them,
Oh,
and reverse some of the stuff that maybe you did unbeknownst to yourself because you didn't know
yeah.
this. I hear people say
Oh,
this like
yeah.
all the time. You had a choice. No, you didn't have a choice if you
No.
didn't know that there was one. A
Yeah.
choice
If
is
you,
when you know something else is available to you and you don't have any reference in your immediate surrounding whatsoever. How are you going to know that's if that's not something that's been made known to you, then
absolutely.
you can't do that till you do. And that's what you're doing. Like now you know this
You
stuff.
can't, yeah. You can't
Yeah.
know until you know. And unfortunately, I was a baby raising a baby. I was more mature than most kids my age, but I was still a baby raising a baby.
Yeah.
I've made plenty of mistakes and I still do today. There's plenty of times that I can sit back going, yeah, well, I got the best mom award on that one. That's sarcastic because, I made a mistake. Um, but yeah, it's hard. And the kids, it's good for them to see that we mess up, but at the same time, they freak out when we mess up
Create
because
confusion.
yeah, because you're the
They put you on a
parent. You're
pedestal.
supposed, yeah, you're the parent. You're supposed to know everything. Dude, I don't know jack.
And I think
learning this just like you.
that's the other part about this is once we really get clear as we get older. I mean, I look at my mom. My mom was like you. She got pregnant at 17. And my dad and her got married. That's what they did back in the 50s and the 60s. But my mom went on to have 5 more children. So from 17 to 27, by the time she was 27, she had 5 children. And I mean, I don't have any children, and I think that's why, because I watched my mom just really struggle. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I mean, one is a lot.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
5.
one is hard enough. I cannot imagine anybody. My hat is off to anybody who has multiple children. I'm just saying, there's a reason I've only got one child. Some of it's medical, and the other one is just the universe going, your nerves aren't right. you know?
All right. Well, or just, if money and all those things play such a role,
it does,
in how much stress there is in being able to raise a child as best as you can with, all the stuff that goes on with. I had a lot of anger issues and with my mother, and now that I'm at a full grown adult and I'm in grandma stage now basically, but I just have such a different view of parenting. But all of this ties back to these things that we're taught. Our parents were taught these things. So that, of course, they say you got to go to school and you got to, if they can see what box you're going to fit in, they'll promote that. Okay, right, you're a cheerleader, let's go with that. Or your sports your thing, we'll go with that. And because that's how it's set up, that's how the structure is. So it's this cycle that gets passed on. It's part of what you said about perfection.
Luckily, my mom didn't try to fit me into a box, but
that's great.
I think part of the conflict between my dad and I, of course, the conflict, was the fact that I didn't fit into a box.
Yeah.
And that's actually something that you and I can talk about, later, because that was a realization that I had. But
oh wow, okay, great. I think those are great realizations. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why my dad and I had such a complicated relationship, was because I didn't fit into a box. I didn't.
He didn't know where to put you.
Yeah, I had nowhere to go because I was that one kid that it was like, you're sitting there with the shapes and you're trying to put them through the blocks. And wasn't none of these where I was going.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And even still to this day, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I meet new people or, me getting moved. I got moved to a different section of my department. And, a lot of people are very standoffish because they don't know what to think of me because I'm me, but it's just because I don't fit into a box.
Yeah, exactly.
And it frightens people because they want to put you in a box.
And also, if you're a straightforward and honest person, honest, is that the right word?
Authentic.
Candid, authentic. If you don't like something, you say something. We're taught at work, don't rock the boat, don't walk around on eggshells and that kind of thing. And if someone is bullying you, and there's a lot of that going on as well, don't say anything. Especially if you're a newbie, how dare you say anything? That whole thing. Oh, I could write a book about that. I really could write a book about that. Being a newbie is very difficult in the work situation because you are the new kid.
Is.
Oh, it's the same dynamic.
They're absolutely looking at you. I was just gonna say that.
It's like, really, come on. I mean, and every job you're like, man, like this still going on? You're like, seriously? You know what I mean? You're almost surprised. Like they still gotta deal with the games and all that. But this all is born out of this stuff we're talking, what we learn as children,
as kids,
all our social interactions. And Yeah. So, one thing, I mean, a lot of it is what we believe. We learn to believe these things about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Becomes even a little bit a part of our identities. We think that that's what our identity is.
It
And
absolutely does. It becomes part
yeah,
of our identities, and it becomes part of our self-talk too.
big.
You
Now
know,
this is at the core of it. That's where the insecurities come from.
if
Absolutely.
you if you're getting told, and we'll just take my being pregnant at 17 years old. For a long time, I did believe that I wasn't ever going to get out of the little podunk town that I was in. Granted, all I did was move to another little bitty podunk town, but I got out of it. Um, no, life hasn't been the way I wanted it when I was 16, but I couldn't picture my life any different. But if I had listened, I never would have gone back to school the first time.
Mm.
I would have married my daughter's dad. And that no, we're just gonna leave it at no. That would not have been a good combination for anybody involved. Um, I would have I would have settled. I would have stopped raising the bar for myself.
Hmm.
And I'm thankful that I did eventually stop listening, because it's
Great.
when you stop listening to the Demi Lovato has a song, I Love Me. And in one of it says, I'm trying to remember how it goes. I'm way too good at listening. Haters are in my head and they should be paying rent.
Hmm.
Basically she's saying that she has taken every single negative thing that anybody has ever said about her, and she's worked it into her self-talk.
Yeah. And we do that. We do that.
We do.
We think
We do.
that's who we are. Patty the weirdo was what I got, you know, all through school. In fact, I didn't really have any friends. I mean, I did, but it was behind the scenes. It's kind of like what they were talking about in the Breakfast Club. Would you say hi to me if you saw me in front of everyone?
Yeah.
No. And Molly Ringwald's, no, I wouldn't. And he just told her she's stuck up or whatever. Well, it's true, but she's like, come on, would you say hi to me if I went over to you and all your geek friends? And he said, yes, he would. And she's like, come on, let's get realistic. And how sad is that? Where you're not even
Yeah.
allowed to even the people that are popular and they're in their groups aren't allowed to talk to anybody outside of their groups. That's just, and they really believe that's who they are. And that's so sad because it's limiting. They can't go outside of their circles and
Yeah.
expand themselves and learn and grow. And that was what was great about the movie, is it gave them all an opportunity to see life from each other's
Yeah.
perspectives and go, wow, I they gained so much understanding about selfhood
Absolutely.
outside of
I
these
mean,
con these constructs.
my school was relatively small, so we all knew each other from like kindergarten. We went to school with it. Every once in a while we'd have a newcomer come in, but we all knew each other. But there were still cliques. There were the band kids. There were the football players. There were the cheerleaders. There were the druggies.
Yep.
There were the bad girls. And then there were kids like me that were just kind of going, dee, 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 where do I go? I had friends.
Fully.
Unfortunately, they weren't lifelong friends. We grew apart, as people tend to do. And when I had Facebook, I was trying to keep up with them or whatever. But when I took myself off of Facebook, I lost all contact with those people. I
Oh,
only have a few people that I communicate with now, and that's just because I don't want people shoving me in a box anymore.
yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, even now, looking back, our high school reunion was, I mean, I didn't want to go. But our 10-year high school reunion was everybody that were in the cliques. And that's nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about those people by any means. So if anybody,
this is not a judgment about people. This is just about how people have been misled. Basically,
absolutely,
we all have, by these false ideas of, and the idea that someone else can tell you what you are.
Absolutely. Nobody can tell you what you are. You are the only one that can decide who and what you are. And guess what? That can change at any moment. You have the power to change your mind
and grow.
When I first started, exactly. When I first started going to school the first time, about a year after my daughter was born, I was going to school for psychology. I wanted to be a juvenile probation officer. I'm not cut out for that. It takes a special kind of person, and you know what? That's not me.
A lot of dedication.
So now, a lot of dedication and a lot of struggle that you have to witness.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And
very difficult.
we
have to give those people that do those jobs a lot of credit. Like, I used to be so mad because sometimes they're mean, but who wouldn't be? I mean, when you're having to deal that, it's depressing, it's heartbreaking.
My hat goes off to them. I mean, because I would want to save everybody, and I would set myself up for failure, because you can't save everybody, unfortunately.
Yes.
And I know myself well enough that I would give too much of myself to the job because I wanted to save everybody. So this time around, I'm actually doing what I wanted to do, or close to it, before I got pregnant. I wanted to be a vet, but to be a vet, you have to actually go off to college. Well, I was 17 and pregnant. I couldn't do it. So I'm doing the next best thing. I'm going to school to be a vet tech, and I'm paying for it all by myself. And it's not cheap, but at the end of the day, it's an investment in myself. But I could get half.
If you had been, so I'm not sure how teachers and adults were about your education and all that, but like, if you had any limits going on, were you told that you weren't smart, or where were you in the academic area?
I was,
where did they put you, rather? Not where were you, but what were you told about yourself in terms of how smart you are and all of that?
I was the one that told myself that I wasn't smart. I had plenty of my teachers that were trying to get me into the advanced placement classes, but I didn't want to do those classes because I would have been sitting with the same people that were pigeonholing me.
Oh, wow. So see, there's another limitation. It's like, even if you are smart and you're capable, you're not going to take those courses because you're afraid that you're going to be bullied. And then there's that part. And
that's ultimately true.
So true.
I mean,
yeah.
And then, because I wasn't I wasn't in advanced placement, going all in. And all of these kids, they were in advanced placement from jump altogether. So I would have been the outsider, even though my school was so small. And even though I knew exactly who these kids were, I went to school with them 5 days a week, from August to May, I went to school with them every year, but I would have been the outsider. And then I would have been judged. And you know what, to be honest with you, I'm going to sit here and just be dead honest. I could totally be making all this up in my head right now, because the what I'm thinking would have happened could have been just something that I told myself to limit myself.
Because it's based on your past experience.
Because of my past experiences,
again.
Absolutely.
And so many people don't go for things they really want to do because of their past experiences, especially in school. And a lot of times it's so ingrained, you don't even know it. Like the artist you were talking about earlier, where she realized all these voices are not mine. These were things
Yeah.
that were told about me from someone else. And that's what that's the work that we're doing here, and others like us, is to unlearn these things that
Oh yeah.
no one can tell you what you are. No one can tell you what you're worth. Nobody can tell you anything about yourself, but we've been taught that that's the case.
Yep.
So, yeah. And that's why we're doing this podcast, because I mean, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm still trying to overcome experiences that I
Hey,
had in school, you know?
I don't think I'll ever be completely over everything.
Yeah.
I'm 33. There's going to be things that I still have to deal with on it. I'm going to have to deal with on a daily basis until the day I die. I mean, that's just there. Some of those things are so deeply ingrained because of what we went through with the kid that I already know that I'm not going to overcome all of them, but that's okay. As long as
Yeah.
I don't let them take back over, that's
Yeah.
the important part.
I think I will say on that end, what's key is when you get into a place where you can have your own space, you know. Um, I'm fortunate that I don't have to live with family members, toxic family members. You know, that would be very difficult to overcome anything when you're still in the environment. I recently, I said earlier, broke off, and there's something that happens when you do that. That's a self vindication, or just finally honoring yourself. There's a very powerful shift that happens there. I can't even explain it really. I think I will be doing
Yeah.
a podcast about it as soon as I can collect my thoughts about this, because for so long I would give people advice, you know, even in some of the groups I'm in on Facebook, where I would say, you know, if you had a friend that was in your situation, what advice would you be giving them? And then I realized I needed to do the same thing with myself. And now, having done it, I'm a few days on the other side of that action, cutting ties with these toxic people in my family. It's there's something
And
that happens. It's a powerful place where
I
you
was just going
can.
to say, oh, it's powerful.
Oh my
That's
gosh, the
very powerful.
freedom that you get is just this whole other level. I can't even explain it. Especially when it's, you know, someone you were close with, you know,
Mm-hmm.
where they was such a big part of your life, and but they were so destructive to you that you don't even really know it. You don't realize how
Yeah.
you get away, and you're like, wow, and how much it affected everything in your life. You carry that when you're not honoring yourself, you carry that with you everywhere you
Oh, yeah.
go in your day-to-day living. It stays with you in this subtle sort of way that you know you're not honoring and respecting yourself. And so, yeah, but that might change as you grow and things change, and you're able to maybe remove yourself from certain people that are affecting you. You know, hope I made
Change
what
is
I
the
there.
only constant.
And that's the thing. That's I love what you said earlier. You know, it's okay. That's okay to grow. It's okay to change your mind. You might do it the next day and the next day and the next day, and nobody gets to tell you that. That's
Nope.
yourself.
Nobody gets to
Oh,
tell you anything.
yeah.
I mean, I could be 3 years into, my veterinarian technician and be like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And that's all right.
Yeah. It's we all get new levels of understanding
That's
as we
it.
grow, and that's the thing. The whole point of bringing all this up is that it just gets in the way of growth. It gets in the way of exploring all that you are. And again, I'll probably sound redundant here, people, and I apologize for that, but like in the movie where they're all sitting around and they're talking, and they're like, wow, they grew. They helped
Yeah.
each other grow and understand. So much of what people do has nothing to do with anyone else. It's We worry about what people are thinking, but so much of the time they're worried about what people are
Don't
thinking, and
worry.
none of that's even happening. And why they're doing what they're doing was really powerful. And you know, in the end, when she gives Judd Nelson the diamond earring, and
Earring.
you know, Ali Sheedy's character with the job,
Emilio Estevez.
yeah, and that unlikely people. If you know, it's so sad because school didn't allow for that, and they got
No.
a break where they could see each other for how they really were outside of
Yeah.
these titles,
The
roles,
facades that had to be put
facades
on.
they had to play, that they didn't even really get to explore who they were, all but who
Nope.
they are and were, so that's why we're talking about this show. That's what's so great about it. I love it. It's so exciting.
I love it. Because me personally, the reason I'm doing this, for anybody who gives a flying flip, you may not, and that's okay. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to see people grow. I want to see people flourish. And society's not talking about these subjects that we're talking about.
No, I mean, we're getting a movement. There's a few things I'll share with you later that are pretty cool that are happening,
awesome.
but we're part of that movement. That's what we're doing. We're here to tell people, no, this is not how it really is. This is not, you do not
How it has to be,
live your
yeah.
life in chains to what somebody else is telling you you're supposed to do. What is considered education, what is considered anything.
I think Creed said it best with my own prison.
Yeah, it becomes
It
shackles.
really does. You shackle yourself.
Limitations.
You put yourself in this cage, and it's like you only feed it bits and pieces. You only feed it just a little bit. You don't really spend time with yourself anymore. You put yourself in this cage and lock yourself away, and you don't even know who you are. I mean,
You do
I can remember,
everything so people can
appreciate you.
approve of you. Approval. Sorry to cut you
Absolutely.
off. Didn't mean to do that.
No, you're perfect. You're perfectly fine. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We did everything, and we tried to live up to everybody else's expectations, romantically, personally, professionally. And at some point, it's like, dude, where am I in all this?
Yes. Absolutely.
And that is what we are wanting to help everybody get to.
Yes.
Figuring out where they are and all that, and figuring out if what they're doing is really what they want to do.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, regardless if it is just, sitting on your couch, just because you are completely exhausted and you just don't have any mental energy to put towards anything.
All these judgments and limitations that are constantly being put on us, that if you relax for a day, you're told you're lazy, or you're not driven, or and that's that person. If
Absolutely.
that works for you, that's fine, and that works for you. Why does it have to be bad and wrong? Because people are different. That's you. You do you. I do me. Why does it got to be? You got to do what I think you should do. That's not. It robs people of their freedom.
Their individuality.
Yes.
Absolutely. And with individuality comes freedom. It really does.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's just take 4th of July, for instance. We just celebrated 4th of July yesterday. And to be honest with you, the majority of our society isn't free because they're living in their own prison.
Yeah.
That society has helped them create.
Yeah. There's a lot going on Facebook that I'm really, really happy about, that people are talking about these truths. They're starting to go, wait a minute, and that's a whole other podcast, which I would love to do, about this whole idea of why people don't want to go back to work, and this just go out and get a job mentality, which is one of the things they teach us in school. You're doing this, we're preparing this for you to get a job. And that model is just not it's why so many people are depressed, because they're they're told that they have to do this in order to be approved of, and and to feel worthy and feel good enough, and all these things. So self-esteem. And
I'm not yawning because I'm bored, I promise.
But I know the holidays, you get older and they're exhausting. So, but yeah, the whole, the peer pressure doesn't stop. You get into regular life and you still have this peer pressure thing. Everyone gets to tell you what they think you should be doing. And
you're 33 years old. You should be married by now.
Oh yeah. Oh I went through
You
that
know,
a lot.
I mean,
Yeah, that's the
the funny
answer.
thing
Oh my
is
gosh. What
anybody
about
who
the answer?
knows me, I've been married and divorced before I was 30. But outsider, new person coming in, oh, you're 33, you should be married by now. I ain't doing it again. No. And it's like society expects that when you hit a certain age, you're supposed to settle down, you're supposed to
Have
get married,
certain
you're supposed to
accomplishments.
yeah, you're
Mhm.
supposed to have a certain box. We'll just go with box again that you're supposed to fit in.
Yes. Hmm. That's a whole, we'll pick up on that one the next time. We'll talk about, the pigeonholing and the expectations of people and what we are told is considered success.
And
Because
it
there's a
all
lot of
starts
that in
in,
school. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say, it all
Hmm.
starts in school.
Go be a lawyer, go be a doctor. A lot of times, I mean, that's great. I mean, a lot of times you meet those people and they're not happy. It's not what they thought it was going to be. And it's so sad. They go through so much schooling and then a lot of times they don't even end up pursuing that. So it's you know, being told all the time what is considered success and what is actually is and what actually is success needs a complete revamp. That's what's
Oh,
on the table
absolutely.
here. That's what we're talking about. And that these things that we experience as kids is what, got us started in our thinking and of course affecting our actions from these experiences. Um, anyways, well, I think we're good with this subject. We're going to be doing a series on the topic of insecurities and where they come from and how society perpetuates them, which is really as important as even just the experiences that we go through that give us insecurities, but then there's also the things that reinforce them. And we'll be talking more about that moving forward into the next podcast on the topic of insecurities. One last thing that we talked about that I wanted to read was that thing
The
from
letter,
the
yes.
letter that they said that I just think is really encompasses what we're getting at here. Okay, so Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it is we did wrong. But we think you're crazy for making us write an essay telling you who we think we are. You see, reading is a little challenging for me. You see, you see us as you want to see us in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer the question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
I love it. I got goosebumps. Every time I hear that, I have goosebumps
It
because it's true.
And it's what's on the
We have,
table right now, big time across the board with people not working and trying to navigate through the pandemic. And people say, let's go back to normal, and normal was the problem. I think that's the gift we're getting out of this virus, the pandemic, is looking at ourselves. We can't hide. We're
yeah,
at home and we got to look at ourselves and go, wow, when this is done, what do I really want? What was I
absolutely.
doing? Was that bringing me happiness? Was that bringing me joy and peace and um, self-confidence, love, all the things we want out of life, happiness as a whole? So, anything you want to
I,
say closing here?
I was just going to say
Mhm.
that ultimately, at the end of the day, we are all of those things. We are the brain, we are the jock, we are the princess. All of us, all in one person, are all of those things because we ultimately have no limits to what we can do. We are our only limitation. And we are our only limitation because of the standards that society has put forth that think is what it should be like. But guess what? It's not what society thinks it should be like. It's what we think it should be like.
And on a closing note, I shared a Iyanla Van Zant quote on this, that you know, you're living your life. Nobody else is. People
Yeah.
cannot like what you're doing, how you're doing it, but they're not living your life. You're living your life.
Absolutely.
And believe me, man, you don't want to wait. And especially I say this to younger people, you don't want to wait till you're my age to realize you have not actually been living your own life. You've been run by all this stuff. And the person that's been missing, like you said, in your life is yourself. So I'm looking forward to having more conversations, digging in on these issues. Thank you so much, Opal. I know I always say it and I'm redundant, but I mean, I couldn't do this without you. That's why I'm doing this podcast. This podcast is for you guys. This is not for me. I mean, honestly, if I could just put a bag on my head, I could care less, you know? I'm just
I'm
happy.
honored to be here.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here because
Yes.
it means, you know, if I just helped one person, then hey, I'm doing good.
Everything we've gone through wouldn't be in vain. We could take what
That's
we've
it.
learned, the wisdom we're learning, and share it with others. And also, just before I go here, anybody that wants to be on the show, please, I'm on Facebook, Trish McCabe. I have the schoolofhardknocks.com page on Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel. You're welcome to hit me up at any one of those places. And I'd love to hear your story. If you have a child that's going through something and you want to talk about it, anything, my door is open. Thank you, Opal, again. And we're going to be talking real soon again. So thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
All righty. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye.